All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm delighted to tell you that the double entendres and the innuendos have started long before the episode.
Mate, I'm just in awe of the aggression. I'm in awe of the what's on view today. I've just been taken aback, I can't lie. Like, I was ready and raring, I was dancing before you got here, and then like, you came in, chest hair flaring, arms on show. And
yeah, the first time in, like...
You know,
I mean, we must have done 100 episodes, close to, if not more.
we must have, yeah.
It's the first time in like 6 series or whatever we're up to that I think I might have had the guns out.
I think you're right, yeah.
I think this is the first time.
You flirted with the idea of doing it topless.
That was back before I put on the weight again.
You haven't put the weight on again.
Sadly.
What, all of it?
No, not all of it.
That's what I'm saying.
No, not all of it. But
No.
I had a better body.
Okay.
When I was talking about doing it topless.
Well, look, from what I've heard, it's not holding you back out there.
It's not holding me back.
No.
Per se.
You're a man about town, and we'll leave it there.
I'm a man about a very particular part of town.
Is this a bit of town you'll be returning to?
I'll send you the Addy.
No, you shouldn't. That's quite rude.
No, it's like a group thing. It's been prearranged.
Oh, right, okay.
She doesn't know it's been prearranged, but it's been prearranged.
Wow.
I've taken payments and everything. It's too late.
Wow.
Can't back out.
Okay. I don't know if I feel okay with this, though.
Well, you've never had a problem with it before.
Famously, I have.
Oh, on air. Sorry, I forgot we were recording.
Just in case anyone's watching this, Jake. I know we don't have that many viewers, but, you know.
Listeners, we've got the listeners.
We've definitely got the listeners. We're doing better on YouTube, though. And I'll tell you what I was really pleased with was the first clip video since being back did better than the last one.
Nice.
Which is always nice. So, although people are mean on the internet, aren't they?
People have, yes.
Yes. And that wasn't the only mean comment that I sent you. And to be honest with you, I found it...
It's funny.
I find it funny.
Do I need to go through them?
Please. It's always worth having a look at
Which ones are
comments.
meaner, YouTube or TikTok?
I would say recently TikTok. I mean,
it's shifted. YouTube's normally quite bad.
YouTube aren't that bad. You mainly get like stupid people, if I'm being honest. Like we were having a discussion once
kind of people
about Auschwitz, but we also had a discussion about Anne Frankhouse, and she was. And I'm assuming I'm wrongly assuming it was a woman
doing wonders for your misogyny bit.
But this person, that they were like, "Are you still talking about Holland when talking about Auschwitz? Because they're two completely different places." Was like, "Is it?
No."
Like, we can talk about more than one place.
Yeah, and when you look on a map, they're like that. Do you know what I mean? They're like that at a push.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of your map, they're like that.
Yeah. But like we were aware. If that person's still listening, which I'd be surprised if they were.
It's not lost on us.
If they're listening, we were aware. Thank you. But please, guys, keep commenting. We love it. But no, yeah, like people like making fat jokes online. I think it's really harsh for them to do that to you.
I don't think it's fair on me. No.
No.
When I've opened up and told you that I've actually just been some of the weight back on and I've been struggling with it.
It's very rude.
Disrespectful to get those comments.
And it's really like fat shaming of them. And
massively.
They should be ashamed of themselves. And I support you, Pro. I just want you to know that.
It's bullying. Plain and simple. It's bullying. I feel bullied. I tried to project it.
And I advocate for your bullying. I mean, anti-bullying. You know what I mean? I'm here for you.
No, I'm not sure I do know what you mean now. Do you advocate for the bullying?
No, I advocate.
Is it you?
For you not yeah, I'm just making
burner accounts.
Yeah, just to abuse us.
Us?
Just to stoke the fire.
Just to abuse us?
Well, the thing is it abusing you if you don't even know it's happening?
That's true, and we both know I'm quite oblivious to these things.
Yeah.
I stumble across them every once in a while. When we did the Russell Brand one,
yeah,
I did go back and look at that.
You definitely were the one who was targeted.
Every day for about a week. I was going back on it sort of like twice a day, being like, more comments, feed me. Tell me what a dirty Matrix man I am.
It is a really dangerous like path, and like, luckily I find it funny.
I loved it.
And I can't, I mean, admittedly we're not there, but say like, those sort of comments got amplified by tenfold, maybe I'd feel differently about it. But
I'm not advocating for the bullying of me. I really enjoyed those comments. They were good fun.
And I think what's funny is those people don't realise they're actually feeding the
algorithms. Yeah,
for you to get more interactions.
The ones that were like, "Who are you? No one's heard of you." It's like you're the reason people are hearing of me. So thanks very much.
Because you keep commenting. That.
Loved it. Big fan.
Yeah, but no, like, look, we're doing well.
Little humble brag.
Yeah.
Not even sure it was that humble.
No, it's
I
not
don't,
humble.
I don't know if I felt the
I
humility.
think we're good, bro. Like, honestly, I think we're good podcasters.
We're good. We're a good team.
Yeah, like listening back to the last episode, I thought it was a good episode.
I will listen to it.
At some point, you're going to be doing a lot of travelling. You've got time on your hands.
In my defence, I have been trying to like study and prep for my
No,
next
100%.
steps. So I'm not.
100%.
I don't have a lot of free time, quote unquote, and I masturbate a lot. You know, that takes up a chunk of the day.
Quantify a lot.
Like tops, a third of my waking day.
No, but talk to me about numbers. How many times are you wanking?
Well, I'm normally only up for a few hours a day, so it's usually like a solid hour.
Is it just a completion, or are you just sometimes just doing it to do it? Like,
depends where I am. I mean, if I'm on the bus, I wouldn't finish.
But you don't get the bus anyway.
Do you know what? I have had to get the bus recently.
Oh no!
What a
Not
pile
nice,
of
is
shit!
it?
And it was 2 long buses when I went and played. When I went to Wimbledon the other week.
I didn't, but no. Yeah, go on.
Fuck me! What an arsehole place that is to get to.
Why did you go by bus?
I messaged and said, "Can I drive?" Right.
Right.
And I'm going to call him out. Steers, Lil.
Oh, was this to go play at the
Yeah,
new
Plough
stadium?
Lane. And this dickhead was
Yeah.
like, best to just get the bus. Like, I'm thinking, oh, right, there's no... No, there was parking, I think. And I just got the bus
drive?
like a chump. No, I think he got a lift. He wanted to drink.
Okay, fair enough. So did you get to play at Wimbledon Stadium?
Yep.
Was it good?
It's all right. It's smaller than I thought.
Okay.
Which is a comment I'm more than familiar with.
God, I hope that
You
guy
know.
we know isn't listening to this.
I hope he is. Hi, Chris.
Because he'll take that. You just named him. Do you know what? We've talked about him so many times, and we've always danced around not
he
saying.
knows.
So I actually didn't even hear you say his name at first. I almost did like a double take.
I don't think he's listening.
No, me
But
neither.
it is
I
smaller
don't think
than
he likes us.
it's smaller than I thought.
Fair enough.
The sound reverberates around quite well.
Well, the thing is, hasn't it? Like, it's built within a complex of like apartments
and stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, it looks bigger. When I've been past it, and it looked reasonably sized.
Just the innuendo here is just absolutely phenomenal.
But
by the
isn't
way.
it like a 13,000 roughly?
I don't think you could
capacity?
get 13,000 on mine. Oh, the ground.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's high.
No.
It's not a lot,
No.
but it's okay. Obviously,
It does the job.
we're getting at the end of the season. We went straight into the. This is interesting, I think. So we went straight into the home dressing room
Okay.
because we're bad boys and selfish.
Were you meant to be in the away one?
There was
then?
no set thing.
You guys just got
We
there
just got there
and
first, and we're like,
Look,
should we just run into the home
Early
dressing
bird
room?
catches the worm, bro.
There's no toilets in the dressing room.
That's odd.
You have to kind of come. It's like literally the toilets are next to the dressing room, but you technically have to come out of the dressing room to go to the toilet.
Seems a weird way to do it.
It's a very weird way because there's like showers and baths.
Yeah.
And
But no.
and this is the thing as well. Like, yeah, they've got the ice bath, but they've also just got 2 bathtubs, like regular
Is
bathtubs.
that just because footballers do really dirty poos and no one wants to be smelling that while the gaffer's chatting?
Maybe. But it was
I
really,
reckon that's
it's
probably
odd.
it.
It's really odd. I'm like,
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of football stories actually thinking about of like how savage some of the lads can be.
But we were all kind of like, when I need a pee, where do I go?
Did you score at their stadium?
No, I had a
Shame.
shot on target and it was a stretch shot. The keeper had to get down low to save it, but it was a bit of a stretch shot.
Okay.
I was like calling for it, calling for
Did
it, and then
Steersy
it came
score?
a bit late. Don't think so. I
Well-
didn't actually see a lot of his game.
We'll be having him on at some point soon, so he'll be able to give his
Ours was quite a sweet game.
rebuttal. A sweet game.
Sweet game, yeah. So, I mean, like, we couldn't score. It was really frustrating. But then we did score, and we were winning, and what it was like a testimonial to like a memorial match.
Okay.
And the guy who passed away, so it was there was 3 games, and 2 of them were memorials. And the guy who passed away for our game, his kids were there. They were like 6 and 8-ish, that kind of age
Okay.
range. And we just let him on to score a goal at the end, like last minute.
How tempted were you to slide tackle?
Oh no, I
him?
went to do a tackle on. I did like a fake tackle and I was like, oh no, you've got round me kind of thing. And about 2 or 3 people after was like, I thought you was going to take him out. And I was like, what vibes am I giving off that you think I'm just going to 2-foot a fucking child?
You have literally said you want a
On air.
2-footer child.
Yes, I have said I'm a 2-foot a child.
So if any of them listen to the podcast, that's probably where they got the idea from.
Decent little finish as well, to be fair to the lad.
Yeah?
He's got a future in the game, as does his sister. Because then we were like, oh no, it's 1-1, they've got to go to penalties. So we let them take the first penalty for either side. They both put them away, and we didn't need to fake save them. They were good penalties. They were bottom corners.
I don't believe it.
Bottom corners, like straight up, decent penalties. And then I drew the lot to go 5th.
Yeah.
Never made it that far. We'd lost it before then.
Bet Steers missed one.
No, Steers wasn't in our game. He's in the game before.
Just trying to build the tension before he comes back on. Do you know what I mean?
No, listen, if you want me to call him a prick, I'm happy to build the tension.
Yeah, but you won't be here to deal with it, will you?
No, I will not.
No.
And that
is a beautiful segue.
Smoothest segues we've ever done.
It's because you're abandoning me, right? I've got good at it. I've got to carry the team in that regard. Do you know what I mean? I've got to be prepared to deal with amateurs. I can't be an amateur.
Have you been practicing in the mirror?
Not in the mirror, no.
Just walking around the house.
Sometimes I just record half of a conversation on my phone.
Segue.
And then I just have a conversation with myself.
I think you could do it that way.
No, I'm not as arrogant as you. I need assistance.
What? Confidence.
I'm confident I need someone else. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think you do. I believe in you.
That's very sweet.
But for the sake of the content, and the listener,
the show must go on.
The show must go on.
Yeah.
And on it goes.
So as we've mentioned previously, Jake's starting a new job, which will mean he's travelling a fair bit, and there'll be patches where he's away for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And because of technical issues and, commitment issues, it's difficult to record a chunk of episodes in one go. But we're going to do our best to get as many done together as possible. And then when Jake's not here, I'm going to do my best to get in a guest host to fill in the gaps. So that's why I mentioned we'll get people on like Lil. Hopefully I'll get Alex back, maybe even Ash on a Zoom one. My sister will be back in. And maybe some new
faces.
Guests. I'd like to maybe get someone like Alan in. He's a long time listener and I think he'd be a good laugh. And that might be a good icebreaker to then get him on with the both of us.
I would love to have
absolutely.
Him on with both
I think
of
it'd
us.
be brilliant to do all 3 of us. But yeah, no, the pod's still going to keep going. We're going to keep the show running and hopefully the content won't drop off too massively without Jake.
I'd like to be very honest as well and forward, which is I appreciate not my usual stance.
No, you're quite reserved.
Honest. I like to think I'm always honest, but I'm not always forward, for sure.
Shoot.
I just want to be honest about how I felt about it, because I didn't want to, it is quite a selfish thing to kind of fuck off for essentially 5-6 months of the year.
Yeah.
Staggered, but still, like you said, there's 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, this kind of, periods. And then sometimes I'm only back for a week, sometimes I'm only back for
a few days.
So it is quite selfish, and I always, I didn't want to impede that and say, oh no, the podcast can't go on. But I didn't want to feel like I was being replaced. And I think if you'd have got one person in, I know we've already had this conversation.
No, absolutely.
I just want to throw
for
it
the
out
listeners, absolutely.
If you'd have just got one person in, it would have felt like I'd been replaced, and then it would have felt like I was almost competing. And if I was having a bad mental health day, I think I could have easily listened to 2 or 3 episodes and gone, oh, well, that's it, they're better than me, you have better chemistry or whatever. And then it would have do you know what I mean?
Totally
the risk would have been there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a kind of rotating guest, it's not
just
one person.
Obviously, because of scheduling, there might be some weeks where I get the same person a couple of weeks in a row or something. But the way I'm going to try and do it is if we've recorded 3 episodes and you're away for 6 weeks or whatever, I'll try and release one with you, one with someone else, one with you, and try and do it like that. Do you know what I mean? So it won't ever be. But no, I'm going to try and rotate as much as possible because that'll be fun as well, and it'll be interesting and get different people's perspectives. Because some of our friends don't lean the same as us politically, so it'll be interesting to see how they feel about certain stuff and see if we can change their mind or if they can change my mind. Or it'll
be freaky listening as a listener.
Yeah, it'll be weird. I'm sure. But no, absolutely. I just want to throw out how you're not being replaced. Crossing Swords for me means a hell of a lot to me.
Likewise.
No, absolutely. And my ideal situation would be to be able to do it every single week with you. And selfishly, from my side of things, I was like, if we bulk record episodes, that then means whatever stretch we're releasing those, I'm then not podcasting for that period of time. So from a selfish point of view, I want to do that as much as possible. So the compromise we've come to is that we're going to do as many with you as possible and then fill in the gaps with guest episodes. So And there might be some weeks where I can't do it because our group of friends, for whatever reason, aren't available. But we're going to do our best to get it done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. But, you know, I mean, like, we struggle at times and it's just the two of us. So, like, bringing other people in is going to be interesting. But, yeah, hopefully I can get it done.
And I bring this back. I believe in you.
Yeah. Look, as long as I'm organised with it, which is one of my issues in general, but if I can be more organised, then there's no reason why I can't make it work.
I think it'll work. I just, I wanted to lay it out there and be really honest.
No, absolutely. I think that's good.
And say that's why. That's what it is, because, like, yeah, man, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Even just for a season, I might get to the end of the season and go, I don't like this.
No, absolutely.
But gut feeling is I'm not going to.
No.
Gut feeling is that I'm quite suited to it.
No, look,
which just feels a bit arrogant almost.
And I've said to you, I think it's an amazing thing for you to go and do. I think it's going to be amazing for your own confidence. I think it's going to bring you out of your shell of a hell of a lot, because you'll have to.
Do I need to? Am I in a shell?
No, but as we've discussed before, you are quite reserved. And I think you're going to have to be quite vulnerable to, like, get buy-in from people. Do you know what I mean? And, like, to make people enjoy themselves, you're going to have to let go a little bit at times. Like, one of my favourite things I saw of you recently, because it'd been such a long time since I'd seen you sort of let loose, was at Steersy's wedding. Because you just had a few drinks, you didn't give a shit, and you went and had a good time and had a dance, and I think that's amazing. So, like, I think it's going to be really positive for you.
No, I'm kind of like that anyway.
You're going to come back with awesome stories to tell on the pod, you know, and I think you're going to have a great time. So I think it's great for you. So. Which is why, like, the whole time I've been like, no, go do it. It's going to be amazing. But yeah, we had to find a compromise with the podcast. I was worried going into it, if I'm being honest, that, like, it might end. Because I was like, when you're away, you're just not going to have the time to do pod stuff. And that's completely fair. You're going to be working, you're going to be busy. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to do it all. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it all. Do you know what I mean? Not if, like, I'm then going, like, a month or so without podcasting.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, so when you said, like, you were happy or you'd thought about it, and as long as you're not being replaced, which you're not going to, mate, because as soon as you're back, like, if you have, whenever your off season is, and you might have a couple of months off, I don't know how it quite works or whatever.
Well, I have signed up for one season.
Oh,
I have signed up to work
enough.
it.
But, like, if you do get an extended period off, there's not going to be guest episodes. So, like, when you're here, we're going to have episodes with you.
It's like I said, it wasn't about being replaced. It was about feeling like I'd been replaced, you know. And I think if it was just one person, it would feel like I'd been even temporarily replaced, and that could have potentially caused issues for me.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I thought about it. It was like, no, I'm happy with that compromise. Yeah.
And I'm genuinely really nervous, because I've said to you privately, like, there's times when we're podcasting where, like, I'm not quite feeling it, or, like, I might have a moment I'm like, fuck, what do I say next? And you're very good at, like, saying something or distracting me, or,
just
like,
stopped
bringing me out a bit.
I'm very good.
But no, for me, you're a very good foil for me when we're podcasting, and I trust you, and I know, like, you're not trying to make me look like a dick. I know, like,
you got that all on your own. Listen, the misogyny thing, entirely down to you.
No, but, like, even with that, I know you're joking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, like, and you said it to me before, like, you're happy for me to make certain jokes because you know where my intent is and stuff like, and it's the same in reverse, but with all of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there isn't anyone else I'd rather be doing podcasting with. And like I said, in an ideal world, we'd be doing it every week together.
No, sometimes I know what you mean. Sometimes you're not up for it, and then the energy just kind of, like, happens.
Yeah.
And it picks you up for it during the episode, during the recording.
And genuinely, I don't think there's ever been an episode, maybe other than when we were doing it on Zoom, that when I didn't want to do it, as soon as it was finished, I was like, oh, I'm fucking glad I did that. Because as soon as we start doing it, you relax into it, you get comfortable, or you start having a laugh talking about whatever we're talking about. But yeah, no, like, I look forward to this every single week, and I'll look forward to
Likewise.
it even more when we've got a little break from one another, and I'll be like, oh no, fuck, I've got Jake back now. Do you know what I mean?
Makes the heart grow fonder.
No, absolutely. But, like, I'll look forward to hearing stories from when you're away, and like I want to see loads of photos. You know, I want you to go and have a great time.
I mean, I can. I've got a couple of good ones from when we were away.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said them, but
You told me about the lesbian and the setting out like sex boundaries with the guy.
the
and then
best
just
fist bump in the
bumping,
world. Oh, favourite.
which is a
Absolutely
brilliant
adored it.
story. But
Absolutely
no,
adored it.
it's going to be great.
To tell you about the guy who gigged. It was like a singer, guitar player.
Yeah, you did. I think you told me about that off pod though. That he was just a complete.
He mentioned it very early on that
Um,
he did paid gigs,
Yeah.
and then when we were in Vienna in the hostel, there was a someone was obviously hired to come and perform. A guy with a guitar and a mic, and I was like just joking. I was like, "I fucking this prick will ask for a go. You watch." And I swear to God, about 10, 15 minutes later, we just heard his voice. And I was like, no. And we like ran to the window because it was in like the courtyard bit. And it was like, oh my God, he's taking the guitar.
Yeah.
And I assume he was only meant to do one song because then he did like one and then a medley. And it was quite a long medley. And this guy had accumulated maybe like 8 people in the audience. Not many at all. But, you know, a smattering of young women and a little old boy with his pint. They were gone. When the old boy with the pint left, it's like, oh, that's tragic.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Yeah. Well, they haven't shown up to see some knobhead.
And we had one guy, I've got to shout out Harry. He's the nicest, sweetest person you will ever meet. Like I don't imagine anyone's ever met him and had a bad word to say about him. He went out, he sat front row and he supported this guy. Because he's a fucking sweetheart. And that's what he does.
The thing is, what I would say in this guy's defence slightly is if I was
It's bold to assume he's got a defence.
If I was able to play guitar and sing to the level where I felt comfortable performing on my own, I could imagine wanting to all the time
but you would never have the
balls to actually go and do it quite.
Yeah, it's not
but
even
I can understand how someone can be that arrogant with those abilities. Do you know what I mean?
I do. But it was just it was like, wow.
But but then it comes back to the in-betweeners moment, doesn't it? It's like there's always one prick with a guitar.
There is always, and like, don't get me wrong, I thought of Ash in that moment.
Ash would have just got up and walked away. I know.
I mean, we did. Because the thing is, we're like, it's a training trip.
Yeah.
Like, we're all there studying. And it's kind of not too bad. We're sitting far enough away that the dude's not bothering us singing. It's just kind of like a nice background noise. We're trying to study, and then you just hear him, and it's like, oh, perfect. Someone go and record it.
Yeah. Well, I've told you before, I'd hate to be that big of a cliche. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, someone has to be, I guess.
It
and
was
look,
bad.
It's good content. It's a funny story.
It was bad, yeah. Not as bad as his misogyny, but arguably worse. Give you a run for your money.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, you weren't there.
I mean, I think I gave Donald Trump a run for his money.
It actually could be considerably less money.
I don't pay to be pissed on, though. That is a difference.
No, I don't think they've ever charged you, have they?
No.
Freebies, baby.
They never charge Big Daddy Pig.
Freebies all the way.
100%. 100%.
Thing is, I don't want that particular service, but I do appreciate that things are better when they're free.
Yeah, like, so if it's offered to you by a professional, like say you paid to have
Professional?
sex
Who's pissing professionally?
Prostitutes.
But okay, yeah, I guess so. But you're not a professional pisser, are you?
No, but they're being paid to do
You
it.
are getting paid to piss at some point. No, I'll grant you it.
I'm not saying it's a career, but
and
it's
I'll
a
go
job.
with it. I love that debate. Let's go. Oh, no, I'll go with it. Okay.
But yeah. Can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, really random one. If we just jump into a subject.
The segue, the back.
Yeah.
Hit the button.
Professionals.
Hit the button.
Oh, mate, now you make this.
I do this every time.
Why'd you do this?
You're going to miss this, though.
I think I need to give you the soundboard in the future.
You're gonna.
Here we go.
You're going to miss this.
What, someone
for
just
the
going,
for the interim period where I'm do the noise.
Oh, you've never watched. I'm into like cartoons and stuff. There's a character who's got an assistant called Julie, and he just said, instead of telling her what he wants, he goes, "Julie, do the thing," and she has to know what the thing is. But yeah, so that's like you with the soundboard.
I see parallels.
Do the thing.
I do
the thing. Yeah, it's a random subject. I've been seeing more and more online, so I don't know how big a thing this actually is, but more and more, particularly female porn stars, are post being in porn, so once they've retired their G-strings,
hung up the G-string.
to hung up
Hung
the
up the
G-string,
G-string, yeah.
are calling for their content to be removed
Pulled.
from the internet, like a few years on, or
Interesting.
the most famous one is a performer called Mia Khalifa. I don't
I'm
know if you've
aware of
heard of her. It's always a weird thing when you, yeah. Anyway, but she has since tried to start like a presenting career, and she goes as far as she won't even answer questions about working in porn. She says it's really dangerous, damaging, and she's called for all of her content to be taken down. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think
And just throwing it out there, we know we're men discussing this.
it's a kind of I've got, you can approach it almost from many different angles, but almost you could boil it down to two different angles. You could boil it down to the one that says, dear God, can't we all just be civil, and can't we say, look, ultimately it's this person front and center, it's this person's, if this person decides they don't want to be a part of it, then that's fine. But then I get it from the business side of it, you as the actor, as the performer, or I don't know what term they want to use, whilst you are the face of it and you are the one that everyone sees, you are the smallest part of that production.
Yeah.
There is a studio financing it. Okay, there's a writer. But, there's directors, there's
people behind the scenes who are making it
fluffers, as we've discussed.
Yeah.
There's hair and makeup people and wardrobe, which seems a bit odd to have in a porn thing, but that exists. Sometimes I've watched the start of them. They have clothes on. There's all these, you are actually the smallest part of it,
but also
to take away the work
the most
of the other
fundamental part of it as well. Yeah. Which is there's a cognitive dissonance to it, isn't there?
I would think that the best way forward is I don't know if there is some kind of union that they can join, some kind of guild that they can join. If not, they could perhaps start one, like an industry-wide thing. And then I think you start demanding in contracts the ability that says, maybe there's a compromise that says the performer has the right to demand the removal of any services, but to make sure they don't just, you build in like a 12-month, just as an arbitrary number out of my head, you go, right, 12 months, we're going to put it out there, and it's going to be out there for 12 months before you have the option to remove it, because otherwise you're not getting any investment. You're putting all this money into making these films.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. You'd have to see the numbers of it all, wouldn't you, to sort of know. Because the thing is, these companies still need to make money. I mean...
Yeah, it's an industry. It's a business.
Yeah. So it's whether that would work.
I can't understand how porn... I've always said this. I don't understand how porn as an industry makes money.
Yeah.
Because it all leaks for free. Who's watching the paid porn? Who's paying for porn?
Well, I think, you know what they've done? If you go on a porn site, most of the videos are, but they're teasers. So you'll see all the porn production companies and even the performers in them will release like clips of the full video and be like, to get the full video, come to our website here. So they give out some of it for free to then get the people to come in and pay for it.
Listen, I'm going to send you some links. Okay, you can get full things. I don't know who's paying for it.
Well, look, obviously some of it does get leaked, but I think a lot of these companies, particularly the bigger ones, do have them removed.
Do you think it's part of the reason, or one of the benefits of performers switching to platforms like OnlyFans and making it independently?
Probably exactly why they do.
So that you have more control over it, and one of the aspects you have control over is how long it's out there.
I think that's the direction it's headed. I think, sadly, for these performers like Mia Khalifa, they were slightly probably too early into the process, whereas maybe if they'd have come along 5 years later when these platforms were invented, they might have been able to, instead of having content that they don't have control over, that they signed their rights away to, because that's what it boils down to. Sadly, legally, they would have signed a contract at some point that says, a bit like I'd imagine when you work in a series or a film, we have your image rights for this project.
Yeah, I wonder what
time
the
immemorial.
kind of bog standard industry contract, because I assume there is one. I assume there's one that people can just download, because these aren't necessarily natural. They're not lawyers. They might have great business acumen, but they're not lawyers. They're not going to draw up contracts and stuff. I wonder if, for example, you and I said, "Yep, I'll make a film with you," to some independent performer.
So
some OnlyFans girl said, "I want to make a movie."
Yeah,
she's seen the guns.
Yeah,
she thinks this is my guy.
Look, it's happening.
I think it's very likely.
For you,
you've seen the guns. I need to focus on the treadmill.
Happily
the
comments
down,
man.
The comments have told me that.
Yeah,
but if I focus on the treadmill, I think I can get to a place where I can.
If you aspire to greatness, you'll get there.
If I go for this, I can do it.
You can do it.
It's a big ask.
Look, I believe in you.
Throw it back. Appreciate the love. But I wonder what the contract thing is. Like, if an OnlyFans girl approached me and said, "I want to make a film with you," how much control over do I have? Like, if I watch it back and I just think, "Oh my God," like, that's, even if I just have like self-confidence issues, if I go, "Oh, I look fucking disgusting, my dick looks tiny, why is the movie only 2.5 minutes and we're cuddling for a minute and a half?" Anything. How much control over that do I have to say, "Listen, can you take that down?" Or does that come down to the individual performer and how nice they are? Is there contractually nothing there that actually drives them?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen porn stars on like mainstream podcasts and they get asked lots of questions. And one of the big things is collaboration between the independent artists, and they do videos for one another. And I think they do tend to get paid for that video, or they might get a percentage, because I think it's difficult when they're releasing it on like their Patreon or their OnlyFans. I think it might be difficult to know how much money they've made from that particular video, rather than it being something they just give for a flat fee, if that makes sense. But I do think like that is why it's all moved in that direction. I think most porn stars, from what I hear, tend to make their own production company at some stage in their career anyway, and tend to go independent. So I think that is how it goes. I think it's difficult for these women. I can completely sympathise with being older and regretting the decision they made, perhaps. But I don't know, it feels hard to say that when you signed a contract, and unless you were duped in the beginning and you weren't aware of the fact you wouldn't have control of it in the future and things like that, they probably have more of an argument. But if they did and they went into it knowing that's the situation, I don't know, it feels harsh to...
What do you think the life cycle of a porn movie is before everyone just kind of forgets and stops watching?
I don't know.
Like, how old do you think is the oldest porn movie you've watched?
I mean, there's vintage stuff out there, isn't there? Like, there's a vintage category on sites. But I actually don't know, to be honest. I mean,
it's just a ponderance. I don't know that there is. I don't know there is an answer.
Do you go for something new every time then when you're perusing?
No. There's sometimes you just need like
something you've seen before,
something you know is going to get you going.
So yeah, like that. I mean, how long's a bit of string? I think some stuff floats in and out of what you enjoy, and other stuff. But yeah,
it was more a ponder. I don't necessarily know that there is an answer.
I don't know if there is an answer to that. No,
it was just
but yeah,
thinking out loud.
So, where do you fall down ultimately on it? Do you think these women are entitled to be calling for that, or do you think they sort of have to accept what's happened? And
I think I would like there to be a certain amount of moral decency from the industry, to start working with these performers who they have ultimately, a lot of them will have been exploited and preyed upon.
Yeah,
not all of them.
No, absolutely.
But a lot of them,
100% women get into it because
I'd like there to have been some moral decency to them to come forward and start changing it and saying, yeah, okay, we'll take it down, or we'll, put it behind certain paywalls or limitations, or say we'll keep it up for X amount of time and then we'll take it down or whatever. But unfortunately, in business is business, and that's just not going to happen. And I think a business, legally, I don't think they have a leg to stand on at the moment with the law the way it is. Maybe if the law changes to say that to give a person more rights over their own image and their own autonomy, and ultimately with the introduction of AI, it's not unrealistic that governments wouldn't introduce a law like
No.
that says you have more control over your
Well, they're going to have to,
image
aren't
and
they?
your voice and your body and whatever, but it's not. It's not there now. How do you think about it? What do you think about it? How do you feel about it?
Torn, because I like I said, I have absolute sympathy for them getting to a point where you're like, I don't want people to see that anymore. But I find it difficult because I'm like, unless you were preyed upon and tricked and not given the full information, but you went into it eyes open and knew everything, I don't have as much sympathy. But I think it's a good argument in terms of having like a guild or something. And I think perhaps...
Yeah, I do. I believe... listen, I think everyone should be unionised.
I think perhaps you should have to have a porn licence of like, we're going to tell you the ins and outs of how it's going to work if you go work for a porn production company and produce content for them, versus if you were to try and do it OnlyFans style and independent and do it that way, which, to be honest with you, from what I've seen and heard of, seems to be the more successful path now anyway.
Yeah, if I was a performer, that's the route I'd go down. Let me throw it this way. Let me angle it this way, okay? And it's completely different because
Go on.
it's not the same thing, but it's the closest thing I think we can get to, I think, and hopefully I think you'll agree. What if, for whatever reason, when we started this, we didn't own, let's say, the first series of Crossing Swords?
Right.
And let's say that the company who did own it, or the person who owned it, was now, we're not really, maybe we're not that happy with it. We know how much we've grown, both the quality of, or the audio quality and the content quality, we hope. But we look back and we go, we're not very happy with it. But also, more than anything, the thing that irks us is they're cutting and editing, and they're putting together these clips that make us look really bad, or make us look like we're saying these really offensive things, or make us look like we're just going for controversy or whatever, and we have no control over that. How would you feel about that then? Would you kind of go, well, it sucks, but we've got no thing? Would you fight more for it? Or
I think the situation is slightly different.
It's very different, but I'm just trying to think what the closest thing is.
No, 100%. The only reason being because they can edit it however they like. Do you know what I mean? Because the content is still out there. We can easily say...
What if they pulled all the content and they were just putting out?
I mean, all you can do is tell your side of the story in that situation. But if we signed a contract and knew going in we weren't going to have control of it after for the whole first season, and we wouldn't have control over what they did with it going forward, and we were paid for that, like, as annoying as it would be, I'd probably end up just being, oh, fuck it, let's just...
What about, I'd
even potentially be like, let's rebrand.
Let me put it this way then. And again, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. I'm just trying to play, play the part. What about if we didn't have control over the first season? The first season, it's been out for like 10 years or whatever. It hasn't been. It's been like 5 or 6. But it's 10 years down the line. Yeah. It's been out 10 years. And then the company that owned the first series of Crossing Swords gets bought by another company.
Yeah.
And all of the stuff that they own gets bought by the other company. So now, this company who we've never met, we've never had anything to do with, we never signed a contract, now has full control and is fucking it around with it and making us look bad and whatever. And we never signed a contract with them. We never sold anything to them. We never wanted to work with them.
The thing is, legally, it's still above board, isn't it? Because the entity you have the contract with remain, and because quite often when those sort of companies are bought, it's like by a Unilever or something like that.
That's why I think it's one of the closest things we can find.
No,
because
absolutely.
like the porn thing, it's like, legally, do we have a leg to stand on? No, but it's like, there's so much.
Particularly if it was a company I didn't agree with and I didn't like what they stood for, I'd be deeply uncomfortable with it. I think it'd potentially even push me to perhaps want to rebrand and move away from it.
But then you not feel like you're losing. That's like we're being forced into that. That's our...
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, it's difficult because I won't feel as vulnerable as those women do, knowing that content is out there. And if they're not comfortable with it anymore, it saddens me that it is still out there, and that I wouldn't watch Mia Khalifa's content now, knowing
No, she doesn't want you to.
that she doesn't want me to. And I'd feel the same about any performer.
I'll
if I
watch
found
enough
out.
for both of us. No, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. As if someone says they don't want something, we've always been like that as like a group of friends. We will. I know it's not quite the same, but I'm just trying to find things that I can link it to that are
We're never
real
gonna,
world
well,
for
I'm
us.
never going to perform in porn. I can't speak for you.
Not again.
I told you I need to see the tape.
So we're, we will joke about absolutely anything, and there's no line.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't feel comfortable with that, whether that's because we can sense that or because they just directly tell us, one night they go, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Then we stop. And it's fine
I'd
because
say
I know
we did
the person.
that more as we got older.
No, I'm not saying that's always been the what. I'm not saying that.
We definitely weren't. I think in general, yeah, you're right. I can definitely think of one major example I feel bad for because we genuinely, like, the person stopped being friends with us because of it.
Yeah, I'm not saying
I
it's
don't know
never
if he ever actually sat any of us down and went.
No, he didn't.
I don't think you actually
he
realised.
We realised after he'd gone.
Yeah, and
more
it was
than
like,
anything.
and it was only because I think like he made a comment to someone about like, have you noticed you guys don't ever see me anymore?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit. And like it was only, and I think it might be that person that perhaps made us really go, all right, no.
I think it probably did. It did influence us.
And I don't think that's a conversation any of us ever actually had. I think we all just felt, oh, actually, that's a shame because we really liked him.
For us, there was no line, and it never occurred to us that for each other there might be.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time that it was like, it made us consciously aware.
Yeah. And I think we all have our own, like, we can all be brick walls, but there's a crack in all of them. Do you know what I mean?
But it's one of the things I'm really proud of about us, that we do cross any line, but the second it becomes a no-go, it becomes a no-go.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And I think that, the to go back to the porn thing or anything, if someone says, I don't like it, I don't want that anymore, it's like, no, I can go with that, that's fine. Like Mia Khalifa says, I don't want my work out there, then it's like, okay, she doesn't want to be, she doesn't want her porn out, I won't watch it.
Do you think people are wrong if they continued watching it knowing that?
That's their choice to make. That's how they square themselves morally.
Yeah.
If I know someone doesn't want it, then it would be very difficult for me to square it morally.
What would you say to someone, because this is an argument I've seen, that says, all right, well, if you want your content taken off, you should hand back all the money you were paid to do it.
What a ridiculous thing to say. The company of the production companies have already made the money on it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're stopping them earning money.
No.
At this point, I imagine most of the people that are watching that are watching the free versions.
Yeah, probably.
So
I've never paid for porn. So,
and also the porn thing is, I would be very surprised if they do. I'll hold my hands up and go, nope, fair enough if I'm wrong. But are they getting residuals for the fact it's still on it with like actors?
Yeah, like, I'm thinking because obviously most of these porn sites are basically like a YouTube design, but porn.
Yeah.
So like, does it work the same as YouTube that if you reach a certain size, you start getting ad revenue?
Actually, in porn, if you reach a certain size, it means something very different.
Okay, fair enough. What sort do you reckon they get? Cock plaques?
No, but you know the awards is like called the Woodies or something, right? And they give out.
Yeah, that's their version of the Oscars, isn't it?
No, but I think I've completely forgotten what I was saying. You distracted me with
It
Woodies.
was about
residuals.
Yeah,
because like actors on the TV show and stuff, and that was a big part of the recent strike.
Was that with streaming?
Residuals.
They weren't
Streaming weren't
getting
residuals. So it's kind of like in that thing is, I would be very shocked if Mia Khalifa's receiving residuals for all that work she's done.
Do we know what the solution to that has been? I mean, I know that. Like specifics in terms of
there was an introduction of having to write in residuals once they'd reached a certain number of views and stuff.
Netflix will have to pay these production companies money when they get a certain amount of views to then pay, or who does that? Do you know what I mean? Like whose pockets?
My understanding, and don't quote me on this.
I realise
my understanding is
it's
like a choice of two. So like, just taking Netflix for example, they can either pay a company a flat out fee to keep
for a certain
to keep it on the thing, but they can't just buy it and go, right, this is ours now forever. They have to kind of like renew it, and in thus doing so, that money gets distributed.
Okay, so
Obviously to the production company, but also to the people involved, the writers and the
okay. No, that's
director
fair
and
enough.
individuals, or they can pay
Well, that's how it
on
should
like
be, to be honest.
you know,
'cause
once you reach a certain number for every 100,000 views or something, they're like
there'll be an extra
they'll distribute an extra.
Right. Okay.
But that's having to be introduced, and that's all changing now anyway because Netflix and Hulu and all of that are deciding that they want to go back to cable TV anyway. So
Are they?
yeah,
What does
they're
that
like
mean?
we're gonna group together. There's like now going to be 2 so far that have done it. I can't remember what the groupings were, but they said we're going to get together with some of the other streaming services and offer you a bundle package. And it's like you're basically just going back. It's going full circle because also in the last few years they've stopped doing, drop the whole series in one go, and they've started going back to here's an episode, and then next week we'll give you another one.
Nutting, mate.
It's like you are just going full circle. You've just gone back to TV, and now when you're packaging it all together, you're literally just going back to TV. So it turns out we had it pretty good. We had more than anything, I think, from the business side of it, we had a model that worked, and was like profitable. And you guys were like, we can make more money, and then you've moved away, and actually to find the profit, you've just kind of gone back to TV.
But the thing is, like, for me, it's difficult. The streamers and like YouTube have replaced TV for me. I like the only time I sit down and watch TV.
Brother's in the same boat.
Is if I'm watching TV with Leanne and my mum. Other than that, I don't ever actually sit and watch a television. I'm watching stuff on my tablet, my phone.
Yeah, there's a few shows that I do watch regularly on TV.
There's certain shows I like to, but if I can't, I just watch it on my tablet.
I watch it on catch up.
Like stuff like something like a Game of Thrones or House of Dragon. If I haven't seen it before, I'd like to see it on the bigger screen. But if I can't, I just watch it on a tablet now, to be honest with you. And I never go cinema anymore.
No, I wanted to go and see June.
I didn't like the first one.
I did. I just didn't know it was going to stop halfway through the book.
But like I've also been told how it all ends. Like
I could have told you that.
But something to do with something called the Golden Path. I don't know if you.
Oh, you're going quite far forward.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know how it all ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't quite get it, and like
I really like the books.
I've not,
out there.
As you can imagine, I've not read the books.
I started one as like a holiday book, and then I was like, oh, I'll read the second one on holiday, and then I was like, well, I'm reading them now. I've not read them all, but obviously there's some stuff you just know.
I could obviously appreciate the cinematography of what I saw of the first one, but like I just felt like nothing fucking happened, mate. It was really boring.
No, that's fair, and they also cut some stuff. This is the thing, though, isn't it? When you're a natural, and I've always found it quite easy to distinguish between being a fan of something and being a casual watcher, a first-time watcher, and being able to go, no, that's really clever. I always refer to the Harry Potter films. I think have done it better than any film I've ever seen, or any series I've ever seen, that cut stuff from the book that ultimately didn't need to be there.
Up on one, though. There's one scene I disagree with Harry Potter, and I think it's in the last book.
Is it the one where Dumbledore touches him?
No.
So I think they should have left that in. I think it's crucial.
Take that man's name out of your mouth, or you're going to get slapped like Will Smith. You leave Dumbledore alone. He's a wholly misunderstood.
As a straight cisgendered male, Rowling's not coming after me.
Really homophobic of you, by the way. Just because Dumbledore's gay, you assume he touches children.
No. I assume he touches children because he touches like you see the way he interacts with children.
How dare you?
Anyway. Have you seen that, by the way? Okay, just really quickly. Have you seen that house that was on sale in Swansea?
Yeah, with the pedos all written all over it.
I respect that they tried to bury it at the back and put it on like the
why
14th photo.
It makes no sense.
I loved it. Anyway.
Because, like, you're not going to buy that house because children have been touched there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you assume, man. You don't know the paedophile might have just lived there.
Nonces don't tend to stray too far from
I wouldn't commit crimes in my own house.
Allegedly.
No. If I was going to commit crimes, there's no allegation about it. If I was going to commit crimes, hypothetically,
for audio listeners, I just winked.
I wouldn't be doing it at my house.
No.
First of all, I won't own a house, even with the benefit of crime.
No,
that's not going to get me over the line, is it?
No.
But anyway, you were talking about a scene from Harry Potter.
Yeah, in the last book, there's a scene where I'm pretty sure it's the last book where the Dursleys are having to leave
Yes.
10 Privet Drive, and
You're right. It's a very emotionally weighty moment.
Dursley like apologises to Harry for the way he treated him, and he regrets it. And it's it's an amazing scene in the book.
It's a wonderful redemption arc.
100%.
Especially after you see the scene in the earlier film with the Dementors in the
park. For
park.
anyone who hasn't looked at this, if you own the Blu-rays, in the extras they have filmed that scene. They just cut it from the movies. You can see the
You're
scene.
right.
But I think that was a mistake because it felt. I remember looking forward to seeing that scene in the film.
But there's quite a lot of B stories and C stories in the books.
I also think they fucked up the final fight. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Compared to the book.
But there's a lot of my point is there's a lot of B stories and C stories that take place in the book.
Oh, 100%.
That do not need to be there. They don't add anything to the
Leanne
movie. It
mentions
doesn't
characters
detract
to
them.
me sometimes. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't even remember that character.
There's a whole. The one that I always refer to as well, being like perfect, and it's in the books. It's great because it adds to the character and it fleshes them out. But when Hagrid goes on his whole mission to find the giants to bring them into the final battle of Hogwarts, but he's kind of making at the same time he's making peace with the fact that he is half giant, something that he's always fought, that he's always that being not remembering, not belonging to either. But it absolutely detracts from nothing by not being in the film, and it would have felt really
forced.
Yeah, and a bit too long if you'd found it in the film.
Yeah.
But having said that, with the June stuff, I was a bit like, no, it needs to all be there.
Yeah.
I'm like, it all, it's a whole book about fucking prophecies and shit. So everything, every moving pieces.
A bit like with Game of Thrones. I've heard the book's quite big. Is this
no,
a case
the first book's not. I mean, it's big enough that they've split it in two.
So, would it have worked better if they'd have done it as a series?
It was done as a series years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know there's a film because I've got the original.
Yeah, there's been a few goes at it.
I think it was from the 80s, the version.
Yeah, with I can't remember.
Oh, isn't Bowie in it? Is David Bowie in it?
I don't know. I've never actually watched it. I've started watching it once.
Yeah, I think with sci-fi stuff, it's not worth going back.
It's tough to hold up well, isn't it? Sci-fi.
It's very tough. And like at the time, it would have been like cutting edge.
Yeah, it would have been fucking shit.
But yeah, you compare it to what they can do now. It's unreal.
But it's a weird one. Yeah, normally I find it quite easy to go.
And
no, this makes sense. As somebody who's never.
We're seeing in general that like adapting a novel to the screen is incredibly difficult to actually pull off.
Yeah.
There's more examples of failures than there are successes.
It's a skill. It is a real skill to be able, as a screenwriter, to be able to read a book and pull it apart. It's like I remember reading a book. I kind of got into like Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic Park.
Okay.
And so I kind of got into a him thing. And
they're Jurassic Park books.
There's two, yeah, Jurassic Park and the Lost
Is
World.
It? I didn't know. I never knew there was Jurassic
I quite
Park
like them, and I like
the way
I
didn't know there was a bloke who'd written them.
I like the way they're written.
Okay.
So I read the first one because again I was going on holiday and I was like, I need something to read. It's like, I'll read Jurassic Park. I love Jurassic Park. The film.
Just go swimming, man.
You've got to dry, read and dry. So I'm like, I love Jurassic Park the film.
Yeah.
I'll read the book. I really liked it. I was like, I'm going to read the other one, The Lost World, and then I was like, now I kind of like Michael Crichton, so I'm just going to read.
I only ever read a book on holiday once, and it was on holiday with Steers, and I got blown away because it had
really
sex
good
in
pictures.
It. Oh, it had sex scenes
Pop-up
in it,
book.
And I was like, mate, there's sex in it. And I think I was 18 as well, so like old enough that I shouldn't have been that blown away by a naughty book. But believe me, it was called The Atlantis Code. It was actually a really good book. It was like an archaeological like thriller sort of thing. It was really good.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like genuinely glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, I read this book. I can't remember the name of it, but I just remember the thing. It was like, but it was really brilliantly written. It was suspenseful. It was a thriller. I'm on the edge of my seat reading it. But when I'm like, I thought, I can't believe this hasn't, like Jurassic Park and that. I was like, for half a second, I was like, oh, this should be a film. And then it dawned on me, I was like, nothing happens.
Do you ever do it?
It's all the suspense of what's not happening.
So do you ever do it in reverse? Do you see a film that's been adapted and go, actually, I'm going to read the book?
That's what I did with Jurassic Park.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I'll read that.
Because I watched Gone Girl and I'm like, I can't imagine wanting to. I don't want to read the book.
I don't do it with everything.
But Gone Girl was a fucking brilliant film.
But when I read this book and I was like, nothing happens. Like as a screenwriter, I don't think I could make this into a good film without drastically changing it because it's all about like I said, it's the suspense, it's the what's not happening, and then it's a really clever resolution. It's a really clever thing.
Yeah.
But visually,
It's just not there.
it's not that much going on.
No.
So it is a skill.
Yeah.
It is a real skill. Jaws, I think, is an excellent
Is that a
excellent
book as
adaptation.
well?
That was a book that was picked up. That was picked up only about a year after Jaws the
should
book
really
was
read
released.
more,
He
shouldn't I?
eventually wrote
This
the
is
book
a-
in like 1974. It was released, and then the film came out in like 75. So it was a really quick turnaround. It was almost as soon as the book came out, it was bought and
Really?
adapted. Very, very quick turnaround.
Well, I can't imagine that's a good book.
It is a really. It is
I've
a
never
good
seen
book.
the film, but I can't imagine.
Oh, the film is so good.
No, but has it dated now? Like, if I went back and
No, because do you know what it is? It's
And like, I don't find that music intimidating. I can understand why it was at the time.
you are watching, and it doesn't necessarily always feel like it because there is a lot of suspense and drama and stuff, but and like little action bits. But you are watching a film really about three men on a boat, and just they are amazing together.
Okay.
No,
I'll
I
add it to
really
the
recommend.
list.
I really recommend Jaws.
Well, I only just got
And
to
the thing
Once
you've got to
Upon a Time
remember,
in Hollywood,
Jaws.
so
Jaws is the first blockbuster, really.
is it?
Yeah. No, like seriously,
What,
it
in
was
terms
like,
of
it was,
making shitloads of money? Or?
well, just in terms of that, it was like it was you know, there was little bits of merchandising going on. It was advertised on TV. There weren't many films advertised on TV
Okay.
at that time. There, you know, other than if they were about to show it on TV. You know, so it was a huge advertising campaign that had very little been seen like that before. It was a huge, like I said, there was little bits of merchandising and stuff off it. So it was a very much, it set the mould for what we know today.
Okay. Fair enough.
As a movie, as a moviegoer. So yeah,
Interesting.
no, I really recommend Jaws. As
I
a
love
film.
how we got there from should porn stars have the right to their content?
Should porn stars have a right to their content? All the way to Jaws via paedophiles.
Another controversial opinion, probably to end on now, to be fair.
Shoot.
We might have discussed this before, but I can't remember if we have.
No, it's cleared up. You're good to go.
Should we, and by we I mean the UK,
It's just, okay, yeah.
when countries decide that artifact you've got there, guys, so like just pick a country, most of them we've pilfered from, but like for example Greece with the Elgin marbles, which are statues for anyone listening, they're not literal marbles. We just stole them at some point. Now we've never actually owned Greece, but like you could pick quite a few African colonies that we just took jewels from, like the crown jewels. I think most of them were taken from nations. There is a call from some of these nations for us to just hand them back. Other nations like Greece are demanding we hand them over. What's your take on that? Should we? Because part of the UK's defence, right, and I sort of love this, is like we have looked after them though. That's like that's the counter.
Have you? And I've banged on about this before. I know I have because it's one of my favourite bits ever. What skit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The James Acaster bit on it.
I don't know if I've seen it.
So he starts off. He says like a long time ago, but not so long ago, Britain went out into the world, and this will sound mental, and they robbed everyone.
I think I might have seen it.
And it's so good. And he talks about, he's like, imagine if someone took your stuff and they had it in their house in like a glass case, and you knew they weren't denying that it was yours. They've actually got a plaque on it that says it's yours and how much it means to you and your people. So you'd be pretty easily mistaken for thinking you could just go knock on the door and be like, keep the engine running, guys. This won't take long. I'm going to go and get my stuff back.
Yeah.
And they just go, no, we're not done looking at it. But if you want, you can come in and look at it whilst you're here. Yeah, I do believe we should give them back. But there's some stuff, so like in the Louvre, hang it in the Louvre, right?
Isn't that in France?
It is.
Cool.
There is, just literally next to the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, so
it's really small. And
I'm about to get
disappointing,
into a little bit of history here.
I'm not talking about your
So
penis,
buckle
by the way.
up. That is very historic.
I'm buckled up.
Okay. So the Louvre kind of got its start as an art gallery
Right.
from during the French Revolution. So this was the Royal Palace. The Louvre was the Royal Palace, and
Was it?
It was until Louis XIV moved the royal court to Versailles. He built Versailles and he moved it to Versailles. But in very recent, because Louis XIV, then Louis XV, Louis XVI was the one who got beheaded during the French Revolution.
Is that the let them eat cake people?
Marie Antoinette, yeah. Although
which, by the way, was misquoted completely out of context.
Do you know, interestingly, Madame Tussauds claims to have been at the beheading of Marie Antoinette.
Who's Madame Tussauds?
The woman who does the waxworks.
Is she still alive?
No. But do you know the Madame Tussauds waxwork places?
Is that
Madame Tussauds?
I just thought that was a random name they picked for it, bro.
No, apparently she was apparently on her way to be done in the revolution.
So is it two swords?
And they said, oh, do you know what? Actually, this woman's got. Can you come and make a wax cast of these when the heads are freshly chopped off, so that we can preserve them? And that's what she claims in her books. Whether it's like in her life story,
and that's how she started off doing.
Yeah, whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. But so the Louvre was the royal palace. So when the French Revolution kicked off, these newly equal citizens took a lot of the artwork and stuff from the nobles and they hung it in the royal palace. It was like, this is going to be our thing. And then what happened was then 1801, Napoleon comes in, crowns himself emperor, goes around Europe and just fucking completely
decimates,
rewrites the fucking borders. Actually, very highly revered, actually sparks the idea of revolution and independence in just about every country he goes to. Quite interesting stuff. But he takes a lot of stuff back. The Mona Lisa, so now the Louvre is filled with 2/3 of it is just French artwork. A lot of it is the stuff that Napoleon stole. Right, a lot of stuff was given back. The Mona Lisa was actually not stolen. The Mona Lisa was actually gifted to the royal family before.
Why? Where's
Napoleon
it from?
Came in. Italy.
Oh, I just assumed it was
painted by Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, of course, yeah.
In Italy. Yes, that was stolen.
Oh, they stole the Mona Lisa?
No, sorry, that was... no, someone did try and steal it. Someone did steal it.
What, from Italy or
1911, from the Louvre.
Right.
And then gave it back because they couldn't sell it.
Do you know what? I really respect that. One, the gall to go and steal it, the balls to pull it off, and then to go, actually, I can't fleece this.
Story
it belongs
is
back in the
sort of what made it famous. It was kind of famous because it was Napoleon's favourite painting. He actually hung it above his bedroom. He actually hung it above his bed. Okay. For a while he was emperor, but you know that stealing of it and
but
returning
the French
it kind of made
handed a lot of their stuff back.
No, well the French haven't. But right next to the Mona Lisa is this fresco. So a fresco is like a painting on a wall, and it's taken, I believe, from Venice. But what they did is when they took it, they rolled it up, and it cracked. So now they cannot move it
because it will fall apart.
Because it will fall apart. And that's the danger, is that, like, even France has said, like, yeah,
but the transport
we should give you back, but there is no actual way for now. Obviously, that's quite easy for France to say because they know they don't have to give it back because there's no physical way for it to get there. But it's there's a lot of stuff like that that's been removed in such a way that actually taking it back or moving it again would pose a threat to it. Not all of it. Like paintings and stuff can be relatively easily back.
Be fine. I think we've got the largest sapphire or ruby or something that's ever been discovered, and I think it's alleged it was gifted to the Queen or whoever the monarch was at the time.
What do you feel?
I'm like, I'm sure it was gifted.
Yeah, gifted. What do you feel about the Scone? Whatever it is, the stone.
What, the stone of Scone? Isn't that like a part of the throne they get? They have their coronation on.
Yeah,
is that correct?
But it was taken from Scotland because it was part of the Scottish coronations, which obviously now since like 1707, I think it was. Now there's the King of Scotland and the King of England are the same, but Scotland kind of some parts of Scotland want it back.
The fundamental truth is, of course, all these places have the right to ask.
It's not unreasonable to ask for their stuff back,
is it?
it?
But we have the right to tell them to go fuck themselves.
Rule Britannia.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we've got very little left. Like, I'm going to go nationalistic for a second because I completely agree with everything you've said, by the way. But there is still a flag waving part of me that goes, go fuck yourselves. We took it. We keep it. We've paid to look after it. Go do one. That's just the way that, like, if someone came along and invaded us and took it all from us, what the fuck are we going to do about it? Do you know what I mean? We can bitch and moan about it afterwards, but, you know, it is what it is.
Are you asking the EU to invade us and take all the stuff back?
If they care enough about all
on.
these places, look, I would love for the EU to be our overlords. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that we would be better off that way than we are currently.
I, for one, welcome our Belgian overlords.
Do you know what I mean? But no, like, obviously, it is difficult, though. Like, if it's become a historic thing, like the Stoner Scone, we can probably do without that. Give the Scottish people it back. They're not going to use it for anything. They're just going to look at it. That's fine. Let them look at it. They can't crown shit all. Do you know what I mean?
Unless they start, this could be the start of the Scottish monarchy.
Like, to be honest with you, good luck to them. If they want to leave, like, that's complete. Like, I would just caution. I don't know what that would mean for them. They might genuinely be better off if they leave the UK. But if we've all learned anything about leaving a union, that think about it.
If they had
get all the facts straight. Like, if the facts say Scotland will be demonstrably better, or not even demonstrably, but they could be better off not being part of the UK, then do it. That's their right to decide that.
But what do you feel about all this? So you think we should? Part of you wants to say give it back, but part of you thinks fuck it, it's ours.
If the sentiment gets large enough that it's like, come on guys, just hand the shit back.
I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable for someone to want their stuff back.
Of course, it's not unreasonable, but we have it now, and like none of us were alive when this. Like, this is just me being a bit devil's advocate-y and a bit flag wavy. Like, none of us were alive when it was taken. Should our children be punished that they can't go to the natural? Like, what's going to be left?
Should their children be punished?
Well, no, they shouldn't.
Because their elders were robbed because they weren't strong enough to hold off the mighty Brits?
Well, look, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
So their children should be paying the price for their elders, but we should not be paying the price for ours.
The nationalistic side of me says yes. But the genuine, like, honest side of me is like, no, of course we should hand this stuff back. It just makes me sad we won't have it anymore, if I'm being completely honest. But
we can go and see it, though.
I can't afford to go to, like, wherever in Africa to go see the big ruby/sapphire.
Nah, you need my travel tips. I'm going to get you there.
Okay.
Got your back.
Right. Well, let's do it. No, look.
We got on a road trip.
Yeah, these places should have their stuff back. I may not like it. Like I said, it's a very small part of me that's like, oh no, but that's our stuff now. Do you know what I mean? Like a kid that's, I'm not done playing with that toy yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many times have I gone to see any of these things? I don't think I've ever seen the Elgin marbles. Why the fuck do I care if we give them back?
The intensity of this debate steps up and it looks like we might have to give them back, would it force you and not force you? Would it prompt you to go and look at them?
Yeah, it probably would actually. And that, like, that's a good and bad thing. And I've seen some videos about, because in Cairo they've built the largest ever, like, Egyptian museum they've ever had. And I've seen videos of it. It's really good. But the amount of pride that's brought to the Egyptian people to have that as this monument to
their history, their past.
Their history and the incredible things they've accomplished. Everyone has the right to do that. So like, that will always, no matter if there's a tiny part of me that's like, no, I want us to keep this stuff.
The problem is that, you know, the Egyptians can look back at this great ancient empire and this great ancient civilization where they've given us the little snippets of what would later become modern civilization. Yeah. Same with the Greeks, same with the Italians. But for us, all of our momentous moments in history is
from when we dominated everyone.
Is when we went.
And like, look, there is, if you just look on from a purely like achievement sense, for a small island like us to go and conquer like a large portion of the world is quite impressive, and to accumulate that level of wealth and then get to where we are now is very impressive. But yeah, fundamentally, we don't have a right to hold on to any of it. We chose to take it. We've chosen to look after it. You know, these other nations have a right to ask for their stuff back and to display it proudly for their people to enjoy and to reap the benefits of the tourism that some of these things would bring to their countries. So
just to kind of return them to their place in history, there is kind of
Yeah, there's a returning home aspect to some of it, isn't there? Like, if we've got Greek statues that the Greek people want back that we took from Greece at some point because we just decided, or somebody decided.
It's funny
to
though, isn't
them.
it? 'Cause when you look through history, it is just a series of.
And like, clearly, we're not the only ones guilty of it. You've mentioned the French have had to hand shit back. Like it's just, you should do it really.
There's a museum in France. I think it's the Musée d'Orangerie, where they actually.
That's beautiful.
During
I've no idea what you said, but it was lovely.
During the Second World War, they displayed Reich art.
Okay.
And afterwards, they used it to display all of the art that was either stolen or sold under duress from the Jewish people, and it was displayed there whilst it was being rehomed. So they'd show it there, people could come and see it, but the ultimate aim was to get it back to its original owners, or a descendant of their original owners, if the likelihood is they had any kind of descendants, or if they existed at all. It's funny though, when you look through history, it's just a lot of it is a series of new invaders and new rulers. Like, and there's very few countries that have been independent from the whole of kind of history.
We've lost so much more knowledge than we'll ever know. Do you know what I mean? And like history and like just from things like the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
I was thinking.
There's another famous example. There was all the books were burnt in a large portion of North America when the Spanish invaded for Catholicism. They got rid of
I was going to say the Crusades caused a real lot of damage in that regard as well.
Christianity is one of the worst culprits for the destroying of knowledge.
It's interesting as well, because I was looking into this, and this is like a whole other thing to discuss, really. But so I was looking into like the pagan history of England and what paganism was and why we were pagan. Basically, just means it's just a religion that's not
reformed in any way.
It's not one of the big ones. So it's basically if it's not Judaism, Islam, or
one
Christianity,
of the Abrahamics.
It's paganism, but the paganism actually allows you to believe in different things. So actually, or the paganism that existed in England actually allowed you, so that we believed in, because of ever since like the Romans came in, so we would believe in a certain amount of spirituality and earthliness that predated the Romans. But then we also looked to the Roman gods, and we also looked at, like, it was quite easy to adopt and adapt.
Rome used to be paganistic before.
And Christianity, Christianity is, it's not only is it one God, one rule, it's like no one else is allowed to believe in anything. You know, you cannot coexist.
No.
So historically, I'm speaking now a bit more tolerant, not actually that tolerant as as large portions will show, but back historically it was like, you couldn't, and it was just this, that's how it came to dominate, just by force, because it, the others would allow you to. These ones didn't, and obviously, the Crusades did a lot of damage as well. It's just interesting to.
I tell you what, it blew my mind when I found out the Bible was created, or the Catholic Bible was created in Rome, like a big meeting. They all just sat down with all the religious stories and went, right, what are we cobbling together here?
Yeah, and there are records.
And there's like two, they did it twice. And I'm like, what? It's called like the... I can't remember what...
No, but there are records of the stories that didn't make it into the Bible.
Yeah.
That still exist, that we've been able to discover since, that were like... I mean, that famous one of like a teen... Because the thing, Jesus is kind of like a baby, and then he pretty much jumps to adulthood.
Yeah.
In the Bible, there's like a story of teenage Jesus scaring off a dragon. Like he's on like a school trip or something. He's like with other kids coming out of going up a mountainous path, and a dragon comes out of this cave, and Jesus just sort of steps forward and wards it off.
Yeah.
Uses his faith and his thing and whatever. And I'm like, in reality, I'm trying to think of what actually would have happened. Was it been like some fucking Komodo would have stepped out or something, and he'd have just gone, and it would have run off. But I love it.
It's even interesting, what I've learned about the Roman Empire, that when it fell, like, we went into a dark age.
That's why it's called the Dark Age. That's why it's called the...
Yeah, like we lost more knowledge when the Romans fell than we'd like ever had before, and like it took a long time. I think it was like a period of maybe even like nearly 200 years, if I remember correctly.
A lot more than that.
Okay, where we were just shit.
So the Roman Empire, the western half of the Roman Empire fell, in 476.
Because the eastern side is like
The Byzantian,
Byzantian,
and they kind of went on for a little bit longer. They went till about
that
1100,
became the
1200.
Eastern Roman Empire, didn't it?
And then they were, so they split in like 270. Diocletian, I think, was the emperor who just said, like, the empire's too big, it's too out of control, we need to split it in two. And then the western one fell 476, and the other one kept going till about 1100s, 1200s.
What I find impressive about these huge empires, right, particularly at the time periods they existed, was like they didn't have internet, they didn't have phones. How do you keep control
Well,
of...
that was the problem. And this is the thing, so when we were under one rule, it was we weren't looking for anything else. The opportunities for advancement and the opportunities to focus on arts and sciences and stuff was really quite clear and quite obvious. As soon as that fell and you just go back to being squabbling, bickering siblings who are all fighting for a little bit of land or a little bit of land, there's no opportunity for scientific education or arts.
And that's why to take
happened.
it into like a really weird conspiracy thing with me.
It was the Renaissance that changed that, coming out of Florence.
Yeah.
In the sort of like 15th century.
That like there's been discoveries of things like Göbekli Tepe where like they predate what our knowledge of like us being capable of creating those things. It goes like nearly over 5,000 years further back than we believed. And like the sort of debate going on at the moment is, does that mean we have to change the definition of what a hunter-gatherer group can do?
Yeah.
But if you see the scale of Göbekli Tepe, you'd question whether like a group of hunter-gatherers could achieve something like that. Or whether it means that we have to adjust when civilization existed, how it existed. And it's quite fascinating.
And like the Etruscans, who are a group of people who came before the Romans in kind of northern Italy, they had this civilization where actually they were quite feminists. They were quite with the people. So they actually, women were very much an equal part of society, as were men. There was no...
Genghis Khan, and it was a pure pragmatism that he did it. But he was very open to other religions because he controlled such a large swathe of land and people. He was like trying to get all of these to be under one religious, but I can't do it.
And that's not what the Christians did.
No.
Or the Ottomans at the time. The Ottomans and the Christians were both the ones that were kind of forcing their own ideology on the rest of the world.
If there was a time period, if I gave you a time machine, said you can only go back once, and like, but it's just a view, you can't change anything, you just be allowed to go back to any point, any place in history, one time.
Don't know, that's too much. But do you have one that you'd go to?
It would be, but I'd want to know how the pyramids were built. I'd have to go back and see, like.
Can I like read and interact and stuff? Can I learn? How long am I there for?
As long as you want to be.
So could I feasibly go back, learn a language or learn languages, and like, for example, can I go and read the scrolls?
If you're willing to stay there that long.
At Alexandria.
Yeah, you could go back to the Library of Alexandria. Yeah.
Then I think that.
No, I'd have to see who was building it. I want to know, I've gone deep on conspiracy, by the way, most of which I don't believe. I've heard some really out there stuff from like an alien race called the Anunnaki.
Brilliant.
Who there is actual.
Don't look me in the eye and say there's evidence for this. Do not, bro.
There's recorded evidence of.
Did they leave a message? Did they sign the pyramids?
No. Of older civilizations referencing them. So like they've been mentioned by older civilizations. Again, like that then gets into an argument of like how much do you believe about myths and legends? Like, is there any grains of truth in it?
That leads me to two things.
And like I said, I have no interest in defending the Anunnaki theory.
on the pyramids, as we've just discussed, so much knowledge was lost. Civilization was actually a lot smarter than we ever gave them credit for. We just never know their methods and stuff.
100%.
Some of the buildings, by the way.
I've watched a lot of stuff on like the logistics and the detail, and like there's things like the conventional explanation for the Great Pyramids and all the pyramids is that they were tombs for pharaohs. There's never been a single mummy ever found in any pyramid, ever. But
when you look, my point is anyway, all the information was destroyed, so we actually have no idea
100%,
how or why. But
100%.
The chances are they were very advanced, actually. But when you look at like,
we just don't know what that advancedness is or what it looks like.
From the Roman Empire and in the Middle East, from I guess the Ottoman Empire, maybe a little bit before that, that actually the building, the material and the technique are so strong that they withstand even today. and we don't know
how they did it.
We can't recreate it
No,
because
we can't.
don't know what they did.
Like, what blew my mind was when I found out we
have to admit that these old people were smarter than we are.
We didn't build anything as tall as the Great Pyramid of Giza until the Eiffel Tower was built. And it's not even as sophisticated, just as tall as the Great Pyramid. But yeah, there's all things like I'd like to go back and watch them and see what's going on. But also,
your point also leads me to this other thing. I love that there are certain things that just persist in every single culture around the world. So, like, for example, food-wise, everyone has their own version of a bread, a dumpling. Everyone has their version of it, right? Also, in terms of like myths and mythology, everyone kind of has a ghoul or a goblin in their society, or a sprite or something like that. Everyone has a dragon. Even though these societies had never really connected with each other up until a certain point in the world.
Some people would argue that's evidence that
they may have. No, for sure.
And there is evidence.
Fascinating.
No, that like I would recommend. I know you're not a big fan of Joe Rogan, but listen to a bit of Graham Hancock if you get the chance. I'm not saying you have to buy into any of his stuff, but he talks a lot about different myths and legends that have been passed down and the similarities and the reoccurring themes. And like, there's one that he uses to argue for his position in terms of most civilizations have a myth and legend passed down of a figure that came to them after a time of cataclysm, whether it was a snake attacking from the sky or whatever, however they describe it, Moses with the flood, whatever it is, that someone comes along afterwards and gives them the gift of agriculture and democracy and all these things and how to build a society and then leave again. So, like, yeah, there's conversations, and it's fascinating. I find all of it.
Yeah, I find it fascinating.
And what was really good recently, Joe Rogan had on, it's the first time it's ever happened, an archaeologist and Graham Hancock at the same time, and they had a debate. And
we'll have to me and you will just have to get high one day and just discuss the history of the world.
Mate, I will go as deep as you like on Egypt and things like that.
Well, as you've just leaned the tip of the iceberg of, I've got a lot of knowledge in my bag now. I've got a lot going
absolutely.
on.
But
I can talk about Napoleon till I'm blue in the face.
I would just ask you to keep an open mind to history, Jake, and perhaps, you know, the people that write the history books might not always be the most honest people. And I think all of it is assumptions. I think, like, particularly with archaeology, we take the best evidence we have and we make an assumption.
When I was 11 years old, there was a sign in my form class in high school, because my tutor was a history teacher, and it blew my little 11-year-old mind, and I was like, wow. And I'd never, you know...
Is it the Winston Churchill quote?
No, it's just history is his story. It is the story of the winners, and that is all it has ever been.
It's basically the same as the Winston Churchill quote. It's a different variation of it.
I know the one.
History's written by he who wins.
Yeah, but it was just that history is his story, and it was just the way it was kind of written out, and I was like, wow, it's so true.
Yeah.
And like you said,
the people that have gone would
have all the stuff that we've lost.
Yeah.
In the name, and do you know what's really frustrating is it is nearly always in the name of Christianity.
Yeah, almost every time. Like, and that's why when you hear
fucking
stuff like
Catholicism,
Islam's a dangerous religion. It's not the only one though.
It's not even close. I mean, like,
and Jimmy Carr said something brilliant on Joe Rogan where he was like, the Roman Empire didn't fall; it became a church. He said all of its wealth, all of its assets are still held by.
It's about 3.
Do you know? And also, they have, I think it was something like 63 miles of underneath the Vatican for their archives.
Yeah. And
63.
Do you know you have?
You have to know what you want to.
One of the
have access
stipulations for having access to it is you have to be like insanely old. I mean, there's a lot of stipulations, but you have to be like 80 or something. Like, you cannot qualify for this position until you reach that age. Yeah. It's fucking insane. Yeah. But the whole thing, I think it's about 323.
Oh, mate, we should have done the whole episode on this. We got to this so late into the... We're going to have to revisit this.
Yeah, as soon as they introduced Christianity, or acceptance, because Christians were the persecuted group, and then as soon as they were accepted...
Yeah, see, I'm not as clued up on the history
Game changer. And that was in about the year. That was in about 323.
I didn't know until the last couple of years of what the Abrahamic faiths meant. I didn't know that meant it was Islam, Judaism, and Catholicism. That they all come from the same source, essentially.
Yeah, and they all there's a few different prophets that they all.
Yeah.
I mean, they put different emphasis on different ones, but
yeah. But no.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this, man. It's just like I said, it's
the
fucking
theological
shame we left
thing.
it,
Yeah, no.
Later into the podcast,
A
I've really enjoyed it.
spiritualist and an atheist getting together to discuss.
Do you know what? I think I only
history of
went through
religion.
2 of my things that I had for the pod, which I like it when that happens.
Anyway, things are changing, and we're going to have a guest host.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, it's going to happen.
I'm Audi for a bit.
Yeah, but we're going to try and have a few stored up.
And I'll be back.
And you will be back.
I'll be back.
Yes. And we will... guys, we're not going to read out all the socials. They'll be on the screen. By the way, if you go back and look at the editing for the end when we do the socials, I do and I time it to perfection.
I know. Listen, you've got that shit locked down.
I know. But guys, yeah, socials will be on the screen. Please like and share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.